Welcome to Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock with John Ramdine and Robin Black. Coming up in the news today, Bellator loses a fighter and quickly replaces him. George St-Pierre and Cher have something in common, and the UFC loses their co-feature fight for next weekend's card in Ireland. It was reported on Tuesday by MMAJunkie.com that Stipe Miocic is injured and off of next weekend's UFC Fight Night card in Dublin, Ireland, where he was scheduled to fight Ben Rothwell. The nature of the injury is unknown, but the UFC is searching for a late replacement to meet Rothwell. World Series of Fighting heavyweight Tyrone Spong has volunteered to take the spot against Rothwell. Spong was scheduled to fight for World Series this past August, but suffered a knee injury and could not compete. Former welterweight champion George St-Pierre recently spoke to RDS.ca in Canada and added his name to those pledging support for Nick Diaz, who was suspended for 5 years by the Nevada Athletic Commission last month after his third marijuana failure in the state. St-Pierre said the length was too much and Diaz was being made an example of. St-Pierre also noted in the same interview that he is starting to get the itch to fight again and is training. And a knee injury to former two-time featherweight champion Pat Curran has removed him from the Bellator 145 card on November 6th in St. Louis. Curran was set to fight former UFC fighter Justin Lawrence on the card, but will now be replaced by Emmanuel Sanchez. Sanchez has fought 4 times for Bellator and went the distance in a decision loss to Curran this past June, and he's coming off a split victory over Henry Corrales from this past September. And tune in Saturday, October the 24th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We will have a 1-hour pre-fight show with John Ramdine, Robin Black, and myself getting you set for all of the fights coming your way from Dublin, Ireland. And then you can catch the main card live here on Fight Network at 4 p.m. Eastern. And I am here with John Ramdine and Robin Black. I gave the news to one John Ramdine yesterday. Stipe Miocic out. Guy had to hold back the tears. This was a heavyweight fight a lot of people were looking forward to. Certainly had some implications within that heavyweight division as all of that top end is trying to fix itself. But Ben Rothwell, as we record this, is without an opponent. Doesn't even know if he's going over to Ireland.
But they're trying to figure out if they can get him an opponent. They're not scrapping this.
No,
right now they're not
looking.
scrapping it. They're looking at, is anybody willing to take a fight against Ben Rothwell on short notice? I'm sure there's people, maybe Ben Henderson, willing to go up.
Josh Barnett's probably thinking, damn it, I shouldn't have been drinking all that whiskey the last couple of weeks.
He was voicing stuff with Morrow. So
well, I mean, they do have the convenient out that this is a heavyweight fight. So it's not as if someone has to lose an inordinate amount of weight. Tyrone Spong is willing to step up and take this fight. Unfortunately,
that's insane.
This is a world that also exists with things called contracts, where I don't know if that would be such an easy rubber stamp for World Series. So yeah, go knock yourself out or knock someone else out.
Just Aguilar. It has happened.
Oh, it's happened. I mean, this is not like this is a Bellator fighter stating they would be leaving.
You can even look at guys who are 205 who walk around at 240.
Yeah.
They are also in play.
How about if you're Ben Rothwell? Do you feel this is someone that he'd be happy to take on anyone on short notice?
He does not care. I had a chance to talk to him in Las Vegas.
Oh, did you ever?
And man, oh man, this guy is amped up. I don't know if he's willing to take a fighter that not a lot of people know. I think that in order for Ben Rothwell to take this fight, it's got to be either a fight that he's confident that he's going to win, or it's a fight that will get him kind of an idea at a title shot anyways. You know, Stipe Miocic, you know, people talk about, wow, you know, this guy, he doesn't talk a lot of smack, but the fact is his skills have taken him to the top of the division. So if Ben Rothwell beats Miocic, he's part of that title conversation. If you beat a big name that isn't a part of the top 5, I think that's where he'll
Great option that they probably haven't looked at this point yet. I don't know why you're laughing at me. I'm about to make a serious point here.
Okay.
This is going to be airing on Fight Network, no less, in Canada. The idea of John Ramdine going and just interviewing Ben Rothwell in the cage after that first interview, I think would be just as entertaining as Miocic and Rothwell would have been.
I know. He just goes crazy.
You know, when you think about it, you can find a heavyweight. I mean, if you got to go outside of the UFC, I mean, and while we're talking about Canadians, Tim Hague will take the fight.
Yeah, that's true.
Tim Hague will take the fight. There's a lot of guys of that fairly elite, upper middle level quality guys who have the skills who would take it on short notice. So I have a feeling they'll do it. He may have dodged a bullet here, and not that Ben Rothwell is not killing it right now. He is killing it right now. But Miocic is one of these dudes who's super good. Like the combination of skills, he moves like a much lighter, much faster man, much more complex game than you're going to face in whoever they're going to call up on short notice. So this might end up working pretty well for Big Ben.
There is a rule in media amongst those in MMA that if you interview George St-Pierre, you have to ask him if he's ever coming back. And it's a very meticulous question, and we get the same answer every time. But RDS, they just hit gold because they asked him, and George said, you know what? I am kind of getting the itch to come back. I'm looking at fights now. I'm training. Do you take this as anything more than talk by George St-Pierre at this time? Do you think that there is really something to this, that he is eyeing a return? Or do you think he's going that Anderson Silva direction and he's just having fun with the media? He's going to throw out, maybe. I'm feeling 80% today. Yeah. Tomorrow I might be at 20.
The one thing about fighters, though, you have to remember, because we've had the chance to talk to many fighters over the last decade, they love to fight. They love to compete. And especially if you're a champion and you've achieved the things that George St-Pierre has achieved in mixed martial arts, you really don't want to walk away from the sport. Of course, you look at all the other factors, your health, the financial gains, stardom, all those things, if they impact you or if they interest you at all. But I think George St-Pierre, at the end of the day, you look at when he started his career, there was no real platform for mixed martial arts. He started, basically the UFC was there, but after the ban,
this was 2002, a completely different world.
Nobody knew if this was ever going to get on network television. Nobody knew if this was going to explode into the international sport that it became. And for George St-Pierre to want to compete in that landscape shows me that, who knows, maybe he would want to compete today.
I can tell you for sure, not for sure, but I can tell you that when George calls and says, I'm thinking about fighting, or I'd like to fight again, he's calling to see if there's an Anderson Silva fight that will take place under 180 pounds, and he's not really all that interested in anything else. George St-Pierre is a smart, talented, handsome, rich cat who does not need to get beat up late in his career by some young up-and-comer if he's only at 85% of what he used to be. But will George St-Pierre, that young, rich, handsome, smart cat, go and say, yeah, sure, you want to give me $15 million to fight Anderson Silva at 178 pounds? I am down for that.
On a personal side, I mean, do you guys want to see him return?
Yeah.
I mean, I look at someone like that you've accomplished everything. You're a shining example of what mixed martial arts can do for a particular guy who came from, a low-income upbringing, made all the money in the world, achieved everything, will go down as one of the greatest of all time. If he personally wants to challenge himself, great. But I just look at him that I don't know how much more he can add to what he has done. And he got out relatively unscathed and was, by his own admission, starting to feel the effects of all of that sparring and all of those fights.
Yeah, he definitely did not get out unscathed. He spent more time inside of the cage than anybody else, taking beatings the entire time. He's just a winner. He knows how to get the job done. But if George decides to go up to 185 pounds, Michael Bisping, Vitor Belfort, sign me up.
All right. That's going to wrap it up for us. Stay tuned, though. We have more Fight News Now Extra, and it's next.